What's going on, everybody? This is the DeFi Crypto Alliance show where we're doing our best to be the bridge between our real estate investor people that we know, entrepreneurs, and crypto, which we feel like is the best opportunity over the next few years. We're pumped to have all of you guys here. We have an awesome guest. And so, welcome, Corey. Take it away and intro our guest, why don't you?
Absolutely. Corey Geary here, and just super excited to be on this amazing wealth creation journey with all of you guys, bringing our real estate friends along for the ride, entrepreneurial buddies, and family to hopefully use cryptocurrency as a wealth creation tool and then use real estate as a wealth preservation tool. And throughout our streaming journey, it's been a blast. And one of our first guests that we ever had on here was Maximum Broadcasting. And I really love this guy because I feel like he has the mindset required if you are going to make it in this space, period. This is why people capitulate and they sell too early, or they don't believe in a project, or whatever it may be, because they don't have the proper mindset that Maxim talks about always on his show. So he really resonates with me and the whole entrepreneurial spirit that both me and Dane have. And so, man, it is an absolute blessing and honor to have you back on for round two of the proper mindset to have, which, man, you talk about mindset right now in this crap show that we're seeing in Pulsechain right now. You really got to have your place, your mindset in gear. Like, you got to, man, this is quite the journey we've seen in the last couple of weeks, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, thanks for having me back, guys. It's been cool coming on your show right off the bat and seeing you guys grow and become a part of the community. And I think we're better off because both of you are here. So I think this will hopefully be a good show. But yeah, it's interesting times. Not everything is going how many predicted, but that isn't unusual. I mean, this is a part of the process, and there's always opportunity in price being low as much as high. And I'm looking forward to talking with you guys about this.
Absolutely. We'd love you to touch on, I know we were in a kind of a private mastermind group last night, and some of those points, even though people might feel like they are FUD, but really, you really want to address all the issues out there, right? And I think you have a good perspective when we were talking last night. And if you want to bring some of those up, we would love to, chat a tab about it, without freaking too many people out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we were there. We were in a little, Corey and I were in a mastermind group last night, and I was bringing up some questions for the group.
I think it's good.
Thinking out loud, and not all of them were positive. And I try to be really careful on social media. I just think positive is usually a better way to go. If I'm going to say something negative, I want to, of course, try to be as realistic as possible, avoid ad hominem attacking a person or something like that. And I just want to be really careful. And right now I kind of am watching the system, trying to keep an open mind and see the good and the bad, try to be as realistic as possible. I think I've just seen so much of opportunity be lost because people can get stuck too hard on one extreme or the other, either thinking that something is completely garbage or the best thing ever. And it's rare that either is true. And I just want to try to have an open mind through all of this. And so I was asking some questions last night that they weren't really negative, but they were potentially not all saying that, the future is the best thing ever or something like that at the same time.
Yeah, I feel like there were good talking points. I mean, one was like, the bridge is done, in my opinion, remarkably well. It held up a lot of money without any failures, and it's flowing pretty freely as we speak now, which is nice. I did a wire yesterday, and literally when I sent the money over the bridge, it was over the bridge in probably like 5 minutes, where we were waiting 48 hours there for the first couple of days because so many people rushed in. But I feel like the bridge, and we had mentioned this last night, is done really well. Some things to talk about is like maybe Richard Hart did take on a little much on his plate all at once. And this is why we're seeing some things, being missed. Like, for example, the LP payouts for, the actual liquidity providing, not the farms. The farms have been working fine, but the actual fees that were being generated in the LP rewards, it got missed, and it's funny because you had mentioned this last night too. I remember when I first started doing it, and I started really providing LP in V4. I didn't really mess with it in 2B, or I don't even think too much in 3. But I noticed then too, like I felt like I wasn't earning money.
Yeah.
But I thought it was something to do with maybe they were stored in the LP tokens, and like once I go and pull my LP out, then I would get the rewards. Then I didn't understand.
Me too.
I felt like I was an idiot, right? Like you're like, well, I'm just not seeing where, because
I was like I was providing a little bit of LP, and I was asking myself this question. I was trying to look on chain, figuring out where did my rewards go, and I must be an idiot, right? Like,
right?
How could I not have rewards? So
I'm glad you guys said that, because I felt the same way.
I will chalk this up to Maxim doesn't know what he's doing. There's something really obvious here, and I'll figure this out. And I'm not typically a huge liquidity provider. I think liquidity, there are certain circumstances where liquidity providing can make sense, and I think Pulsechain, the current situation, there were some opportunities, I think, in LP, and so I was playing them a little heavier than normal, but then I wasn't seeing rewards, and I pulled all my LP positions, and I don't regret that right now. But yeah, I wish, like, it's really surprising, and at the same time, like, I could have looked into that a little bit more specifically, and probably, take responsibility myself for not actually finding that specific thing out. It's surprising that was missed, but I'm curious how fast we can get that back.
Actually, he just tweeted to literally 5 minutes ago. We hopped on, and Richard Hart tweeted he's deploying the new contract on V4 as we're speaking.
Sweet. They're working on it, and it is what it is. I think the fact that we're still in a bearish market, it's not, like, in my opinion, getting a lot of these questions answered that people have, fixing these issues, now's a great time. The sooner we can have all of the, whatever bad narratives and whatever flaws in the system figured out, I think the better. And as long as they do get figured out, and I think there's a kind of an existential crisis for these hexagons in so many ways. Like, who are we right now? We have our favorite eHex token, but now it's forked over, and we have to decide, there's so many options. Like, we can keep our copies, we could go heavier one side or the other, but then of course we have Pulsechain and PulseX, and this one community is now, there's a lot more focuses and directions that this community can go, at the same time that the specifics of these new tokens are being worked out too. And it's interesting to see. I'm really, I'm curious how this is going to work. One of my favorite things is our community, and the fact that there's a lot of cool projects and that are not out yet. Like, Pulsechain is here, PulseX is here, the bridge is here, but there's also a lot of cool things in the process, in the works that I think, I think could be really good for the system. And yeah, what Richard Hart has done with Hex, he has built a really good community, and that community is having to answer some hard questions right now, but I think a lot of those really productive, resourceful people are still here. And we were talking to one last night, and I love the confidence of a lot of the developers on Pulsechain right now. Like, it's just good to hear that. And yeah, I think it's a time to be cautious as much as always, but I do not think that this is something that there's reason to think this thing's going to just go to zero. I think we have a lot of potential ahead of us that we have not seen yet. And I think there's, it's interesting too. I think Dipcatcher posted on Twitter the other day that, really the sacrifices that a lot of us made for Pulse and Pulsechain have actually done very well. It's easy to, so much of life is expectations, and there was such a strong narrative for 1000x and 10,000x.
Did you ever buy those? I never bought those.
No, I didn't at all. And and I really have hardly talked about Pulsechain on my channel. And
I know you've been mainly Icosa and Hedron, which is really cool.
Yeah, Hex, Icosa, and Hedron are the main tokens that I've focused on. Pulsechain, not so much. And a lot of it's because I just want to be careful. It kind of comes back to focusing on the negative. I'm not as bullish as other people. And I just I want to just be careful saying something that isn't positive. And let's just watch and see what happens. Kind of, it has been more of my mentality. And here we are. But I was going to say something, and I don't remember what my point was. But
I think it's interesting. A lot of people really staked their, how many times did you hear somebody say on Twitter, "Oh, Richard, just take your time, flawless operation, everything's going to be all peachy."
I think
and it doesn't. I mean, no. I guess I'm surprised by people losing their mind over it not coming out and having something that needs to work out. Hex and Pulsechain and Pulsex, even for that matter, are two. Hex is very different than those two things. Those things need to continue to undergo development, updates, and things of that nature. And they're built in such a way where that can happen. And so it's not a big deal. And I'm fine with it. It hasn't bothered me. And Corey and I have both been buying these dips. We're grateful for them.
So my point that I missed was, there's not very many things that someone could have invested in at the time of Sachs and held for 2 years that would have held their value. And even with, for me, my Pulsex and Pulsex Sachs, I think I've always been over what I sacked. And there, it's not the 1000x, but even Hex is down pretty far from the SAC price. Pulsex and Pulse are not. And I think that's it's actually better than it seems, just because what else could you have invested in that would have held its value?
It is,
over the last
but it
2
also
years.
means we can go through more pain, because people are still generally. I saw T-Bird talking about this on Twitter. And he was talking about, this mindset of still being in profit over the Hex versus the sacrifice and the Pulse. Well, that just means that more people are still willing to sell the price down because they are in profit versus the SAC rate. So they can go way under the SAC rate and still be in profit. And so we could still see a lot more pain to come, or at the very least, if it's not a lot more pain, maybe some serious sideways chop for many months as people keep selling it down, as it keeps trying to be pushed up. Because people are in profit. Because I think T-Bird was talking about, he sacrificed Hex when it was 30 cents. So you're a day one Hexican, you write up the 30 cents, you sack it. Really, what did it cost you? Yeah, you got credit for let's say you got credit for $250,000. What did that really cost you in the beginning of your crypto journey? A couple grand? Like so these guys, some of these whales or sharks, their mindset is like, man, I'm still massively in profit. I want to take out profit from my hex that I sacrificed 2 years ago. And so that's why I still think that we are far from out of the weeds yet, and that we could see more downward pressure, or at least more chop at the very least.
Yep. Yeah, I like Randy's comment, comparing Pulse and PulseX and the value that Hex was sacked. I mean, it's Pulse and PulseX are doing pretty good if you look at it that way, in my opinion. Your Hex is down, but the Hex that you sacked at the bull run is, you got that value currently, even now, in Pulse and PulseX for the great majority of us, I think. And I'm not complaining about that. And you're right. Like, it's an interesting dynamic because Pulse and PulseX are coming out in a bear market, but they were sacked in a bull market. And it's not exactly a bear market token. Like, it's a little bit more nuanced, than that, just given when the money went into the system. And it changes it a little bit. So it's the next bull run, in a sense, will not necessarily just be its first bull run, because of when the sack was. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yep. That's a very good point. And I had not thought of that. Yeah.
And even if and for the sacrifices, I would have loved to have ridden Hex up to 30 cents and then sacrificed it and been way up dollar for dollar. I was not. I brought in new money to sacrifice. And even yeah. And I've been thinking about that a lot. And part of me is like, man, it sure would be nice to have that money today to buy these better rates up, because I would love to do that. But on the other hand, I know myself, and there's no way that I would have taken that money and stuck it in the bank and waited till now. It would be other places. It probably wouldn't be accessible, and I wouldn't be locked into where I'm at. And so all in all, I'm pretty happy with where I sit today.
Yeah, you locked in a certain position, a guaranteed seat at the table, if you will. No matter what happens to price, that was the one thing that you were guaranteed by sacking year and a half, 2 years ago.
Absolutely. So right now we have some of the biggest sellers. You see guys like Rackham Rochelle, who proves to continue to be a liar over and over and over again.
Yeah, let me tell you a little story about that, Maximum. In the early days, this is probably right around the PulseX sacrifice. Rackham Rochelle would come in the Pulse Telegram room. This is when I was a noob, and I was learning everything I could about the ecosystem. I just got introduced into Richard Hart. I was excited. And Rackham Rochelle comes in there and starts talking about how he's going to start buying Hex today, and he's going to send the price to over 70 cents. It might hit $1. He's going to start buying multiple millions, and that you guys better start buying right now. Literally, when he would come in and shill that night or morning thereafter, red candles, he was dumping. And he would come in, he did this multiple times in the Pulsechain Telegram room. This is a very bad actor, in my opinion, when you're coming in, shilling to the direct group who are your exit liquidity to go and buy. This is also what Gunther did in the Hedron room in the early days of Hedron. And so it's a very bad look. But for Rackham, look at this. He has a large sacrifice, so he got the best rate at I think it's like a decimal, 4 zeros, and a 4. And so like he started selling, I guess, towards the 2 or 3x of sack rate. For him, I mean, he's massively in profit. Not to mention if he had Hex that he wrote up, sacked that. I mean, he could be like at a 10, 15, or even 20x. We don't know what his denomination that he started with from the time that he's selling, and it could probably be pretty incredible. And from the last I checked, he's been buying back right now. So he's buying back the lows. So he's playing whale games. He's selling down, getting the other people to capitulate, which is what whales always do. And then he's coming back and scooping up, at these lower lows. And so he's just playing well games. But man, he's not to be. Crypto is PvP, and I've learned that incredibly the hard way. That you can't listen, especially to other influencers or especially other whales who are trying to give you insight to what their plan is. It makes no sense to me why they would even do that. Do you think Warren Buffett would tell the masses what his next move is next week? He wouldn't. If he did, he'd go to jail. It's illegal in the stock market world. Of course, the crypto world, we can do that all day. It's like it's insane to me. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the Rackham. He's playing well games. Don't listen to him. Just play his game. When you start seeing him buy back up, maybe that's your time to DCA. I don't know. No financial advice. But just don't listen to him. That's for sure. If he's telling you to hold for 2 years, well, he might be getting ready to dump. I mean, I don't know. It's
Yeah, I think it's always, for me, I'm trying to develop and refine my explanations for why would I do something? What is the reason for it? And hearing one big person say what they're going to do, I always want to hear what people are saying, but usually it's more of a fundamentals of the token itself and the dynamics, and that I try to understand. And I really want to focus on, like, what's the value of this token aside from the price going up? Is there a reason for people to buy? I think of things like Ethereum, that so many people buy not because they like Ethereum, not because they think Ethereum is going to just go up so high in price, but because they need it for transaction fees.
Yeah.
Even to buy Hex on Ethereum, you have to buy Ethereum, and it has this certain buy pressure aside from price going up, and it suggests that there's actually value in the token. People need it, and I'm trying to, like, I don't know, that's an example of things I like to see. And the Ethereum gas prices have been relatively high, but that's a sign of how much value people see on Ethereum. They're willing to pay, however much it is right now for a transaction, because they think that transaction is worth it. And I think it's one of those interesting things with Pulsechain that a lot of people see as a negative, is the high transaction fees, but that's a sign that people see value there. And I want to see that. I want to, if value on Pulsechain means higher transaction fees, I don't necessarily see that as a negative. And especially like when PulseX and Pulse are burning in the way that they are, even more aggressive than Ethereum is, it's helping those people that hold more than otherwise, and those other people playing their own games, even if they don't like Pulse, are helping Pulse. And I don't if higher transaction costs mean there's value on the chain, I do not see higher transaction fees as negative. I feel like it's one of those, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And you can't have it. It's very, very, very hard to have it both ways. Low transaction fees and massive value on the chain. And that's one of the other things that I hope from our community. I think it will only help us if we're very welcoming. Because if we want Pulsechain to be used, if part of our narrative is, you can bridge over and trade for lower costs than Ethereum, and we have, all these forked tokens that will, I don't have a ton of hope, but there's, a reason for people to come over and see if there's any value in those tokens. If we want all those people to come over, we need to be welcoming to them. And this is crypto. Like, this is supposed to be free market. Like, we sacked with Pulsechain for freedom of speech. You guys get to play out whatever crazy ideas you have, and hopefully we're watching and learning from the projects that do well and the projects that do poorly. But I think people should be free to test out these theories, and I think Pulsechain hopefully will be a welcoming place for a lot of tokens, and I think it'll be in Pulsechain's best interest to be pretty welcoming. I would love to see Pulsechain similar to Ethereum in the way that I'm saying that Ethereum benefits from people that are not in love with Ethereum. They're using it to get the tokens that they are in love with. I would love that for Pulsechain as well. And yeah, I think Richard Hart he's signed up for something so different with Pulse and PulseX. You know, they're relative to Hex. It had value in the fact that it was a completed project with no admin keys. It benefited from that. Like, that's a selling point. And it's also something that Richard Hart and his devs could build and then sit back and let their creation play out. Pulse and PulseX are not going to be like that. Like, layer ones and decentralized exchanges are something that is very much technology, in the sense that it's like, it's a current explanation being played out that is not fully improved. We don't have a perfect layer one. We do not have a perfect decentralized exchanges. Over time, these are iterating and improving. And that is interesting for me to watch as well, because that's just such a different dynamic. I think Richard Hart, if he wants to have a competitive layer one and decentralized exchange, he's going to have to continually be creative and iterate, which is different than Hex. And yeah, it's a different dynamic. Like, I'm curious how that goes.
And I think that's a great point as far as the community that he's built. You know, the community is very founded around Hex, which principles are very different than, like you said, a layer one and a decentralized exchange. And so I think that's why you see a lot of division right now. You see a lot of uncertainty, because this is a new ball game. Yeah. It's interesting.
It is. Yeah, I think
here's oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. What's your thought?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, cool. So Allison asked a great question. She says, if you FOMO'd in too high, what's your best move? And shout out to Randy. Randy's been talking about this on his show. He says that over the next, and if I misquote you, Randy, correct me in the comments, but if I remember correctly, Randy said he's a buyer for the next, year or so, and that a lot of that time he's going to be upside down on his positions. And that's fine, because nobody knows the bottom. And so we've talked about it a lot here, where, if you take a dollar cost average approach, a lot of the time, even when you're upside down, those are typically, if you're in assets that you believe in long term, those are times to buy, so that you can reduce your cost basis on those positions. And so there's some that I'm upside down on, and that's fine. That's an opportunity for me to be able to buy my positions down. And so that's what I'm doing. And of course, we don't give financial advice here. We can talk about our own portfolios and what we're doing, and that may be different than what may be best for you. But Maxim and Corey, anything that you want to add to this idea?
I mean, I'll go first, because it's pretty much the same as what you just said, is that, dollar cost average is always the winning strategy. And I even like to keep a bag on the side. And I've really kind of realized this recently, that I want to keep what I call a black swan bag for, like, and I don't know, I've heard Maxim talk about this a lot in his content, where what if something were to happen, like the Fed stops raising the interest rates or something, and stock market takes like a 30 or 40% correction down, which is huge in the stock market, and you just see this massive capitulation out of crypto all in like one candle. Like, if you have a small bag to throw in at that, that could be the real life-changing wealth that you're seeking. And so you want to be able to, because we just don't know. Not knowing is the what you have to prepare for, which is it's almost like an oxymoron. How do you prepare for what you don't know, right? Well, you need to try to think of every outcome in your head that's on the horizon that could happen, and making sure you leave some dollars behind in your bank account to prepare for that, with also the idea that you still leave money for your regular living expenses. You're not exerting yourself where you don't sleep at night and stuff like that. You still need to live your life. You need to take care of your family. You might have other investments that you need to tend to. And so like with that in mind too, and everyone's situation is so different. But so that's my thought on that.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is an example of no one knows exactly what's going to happen. Like the common narratives were not what is actually happening. And like you were saying, I mean, for me, one of the ironically most confidence building beliefs I have is that I know I don't know what is going to happen, and
Exactly.
what that
Yes.
yeah, and what that looks like. So how do I play a game when I know I don't know what's going to happen? Well, I try to play probabilities, and I try to play probabilities based off of explanations. Try to have a reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. Yeah, and I like probabilities because they kind of assume that it's not 100% chance. There's always a chance that something else will happen, and it encourages me, for example, to never go all in or all out, because there's always a chance that it could go lower or it could go higher. And I've told people my basic strategy for this bear market, and I bought in, near the lows, but I left a bag on the side because I don't know if that's the bottom. I don't know what's going to happen. We're in a very uncertain macro economy. And I think even now, I think we could go lower. I think it's not a 0% chance. And
all the crypto markets, everything could really fall through the floor.
Yeah. And it's as soon as I go in on something all in, it's kind of like almost a lie to myself, because the only reason that I would go all in is because I'm telling myself that it's an absolute that going in now is the best thing to do. And I don't know that. So I don't want to go all in. And I want to be really careful taking myself out of the way of opportunity. Like if a new opportunity comes up after I've gone all in, I can't act on it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want to really, really be careful taking that option off the table, because I know I don't know what cool things are going to come up next either. And if I'm going to act according to knowing that I'm ignorant, I should be really careful going all in. And it's times like these that I'm really thankful that I didn't go all in, and I have some funds available to buy the dip, and I'm still,
DCA again.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, it's it's a simple truth. I know I don't know, and then acting that out. When you live that way, you never maximize what could have been. Like if you're always saving funds, whenever the bottom hits, you still have funds on the side. You're not going all in then, but you don't know where the bottom is. So you just can't. You can never perfectly sell everything at the top, perfectly buy everything at the bottom. And for me, I take that as a known. How do I still win without knowing where those are? Be conservative and careful with what I have. And so.
And I think that's not knowing and admitting that you don't know those things, where you don't need to have the 10,000x, right? That's why they measure the charts from the very bottom to the very top, like hex. But if I'd have got in there and just experienced like a 200 or 300x, I would have been perfectly happy with that. Like I didn't need to get anywhere near that 10,000x for me and my life, my family's life, to change forever. You know what I mean? A couple 100x would have done drastic things for me and my family's life. And so, everybody who goes in, they kind of have these unrealistic expectations. I feel like sometimes I have some onboards like this too, and they kind of went all in, and they're like, "Well, you think you'll 1,000x from here?" And I'm like, "No."
Yeah, it's we don't know. I mean, crypto, the saying is, it'll go lower than anyone thinks and higher than anyone thinks.
That's it. Gosh, that's
and yeah, and I think there's a lot of people that a 10x would be massively life-changing even now. And that's a lot of sell pressure at 10x. And so it'll be interesting to see, like, there's the chance that those people sell around a 10x, and a lot of new buyers take that and it takes it even higher. It's possible. But I think there are, like, 10x is a lot relative to standard markets. And, who can 10x their money in even 3 years? Like, that's a very short time frame for a 10x return. Yeah, we'll see how this plays out. And that's another reason for me to feel that encouraging our community to be welcoming to other communities. We need more money than just in our current system. We need to invite other people in, give them a reason, give them value to come in to our community. But I think if off the bat we're just going to say that every token that comes in on Pulsechain is garbage, that's not a direct Richard Hart.
Yeah, otherwise we're just all swapping bags. Like, exactly. I don't want your bag. I don't want Dane's bag. I don't.
Yeah. But at the same time, I think
liquidity on each other.
At the same time, I think it's interesting because it appears that Pulse and PulseX did bring a lot of people into the community that may have not otherwise been there. And so I think that's good. And it's curious. It's going to be interesting to watch the dynamics play out. Right now, we have Pulse, PulseX, and Hex pretty tied together with liquidity, and it tends to average out. If someone's buying one, it'll tend to push all three of those up. If someone's selling one, it'll tend to bring all three of the. If they're selling versus a stablecoin, it'll tend to bring all those down. So in some sense, we have brought in new money, and a good amount of it. I'm curious to see the narratives change, and which of those tokens.
It's funny you say that, because Buck Fiat was asked that in a Twitter channel the other night. Was like, hey, which token should I buy? PHEX, PulseX, or Pulse? And Buck Fiat's answer was like, it doesn't matter. He goes, they're all the same token. He goes, it doesn't matter. They're all going to go up together, go down together. They're all the same token. So it was just funny when he said that. I really realized, like, okay, so we are the same ecosystem to go up and down together. That means we're probably going to go up much slower together and go down slower together. If we're one giant large token tied in with liquidity, then we're going to move as such.
Yes, possibly. I think there are potential opportunities that people should be looking. At least it's something that I'm trying to think about and watch. Are just alt, like not Hex, Pulse, PulseX, but like I don't know if I even want to name names, but maybe the Maximus tokens, for example, might be a good one. That some of these things have been, I would say, irrationally low in value. And there has been, I would say, unusual upside potential if people are watching some of these side tokens. But yeah, some of those may have some good upside.
Yeah, our group last night, one of the members in there, Sprackberger, he was like, I'm buying Deci.
Yes.
And Deci's really undervalued right now. And this morning it was under a penny. And that's your basically your shares in a 10-year stake. And so if you believe in Hex for 10 years, that's a great buy. Amazing buy.
Right. Yeah, there's been some cool opportunities with that. I think even the HSIs, the Hex stakes wrapped basically in the Hedron contract. They're almost all 5.5. But if you want a 5.5, if you want to have a really long stake, you can get into that for lower than buying off the market in a lot of cases. And there's been some incredible discounts if people are paying attention. And it's interesting to play that out because you look at bonds, for example, and the typical interest rates on shorter term versus longer term bonds, and the HSIs, is interesting to see what people value a max length hex stake at versus liquid. And I think a lot of it, there's like a lot of this market is being figured out. People aren't sure what it is worth, and there's some potential opportunity in that. And at certain times, I feel like there was a time where not that long ago, HSIs were going at almost a 90% discount.
I bought some.
Yeah, that's opportunity. If it's the same thing, like, what risk do you think there is in holding hex for 15 years, LaCroix?
Yeah, someone said I was drinking a cold one. I was just wanted to show that it was just a LaCroix. I don't drink alcohol.
It's like the most conservative drink. It doesn't even have caffeine.
It's like the opposite. I had some coffee this morning. I love my coffee, but that's like I had enough.
What would you, this is a good question. So Mike asks, after Richard stated the issue with liquidity burning the fee instead of giving you the fee, are you guys still farming while the fixes are being made? What are you guys doing?
I want to answer this first. I am. And I've noticed my INC tokens are accelerating quite fast. The value of the INC tokens going down, so it's not representing in the yield. So the APY is dropping or staying the same, but that's because of the value of the tokens going down. But your accumulation of the token is going up.
Right. Yeah, I'm not.
I hadn't noticed that. That's
I think if someone likes the incentive token, and I think it's one of those tokens that's, for me, hard to create a good explanation for why the price is going to go really high, but at the same time, in some sense, it reminds me of a meme coin, where it's also hard for me to explain what is the fundamental value of this token and how exactly will I know that this token is over or underpriced. The incentive token is similar to me in that way, which makes me a lot more conservative, and I tend to be really careful playing those games. But I could see, like a meme coin, the incentive token having some pretty good run-ups. And I think there's some arguments for how scarce it is and some other things that could promote a narrative encouraging a higher price. But like you're saying, if there's the price is lower, so that little number there, the percent return or whatever you're getting on your liquidity pool is lower, but you're getting more of those tokens, it may not be a bad play.
Yeah, I didn't increase. Well, actually, I did increase a little bit. I increased it a little bit when he told me that. But I'm going to let it play out until he's ready to do the contract switch, or however they're going to do what they do. Do you know what he's going to do? Is he going to do like a whole nother? Is this going to be like a PulseX fork, and then we're like have to go to another like URL setting where we're going to have to like move our tokens? Like, do you have any idea what this?
Yeah, that's a little bit out of my realm of expertise. the technical side of how they're going to do this. For me, I don't care too much whether it's upgrading the current contract or forking it. I think the result's going to be similar.
I guess they can upgrade it because they have admin keys. It's not like Hex, where you can never go in there and change anything. Like with these type of you guys have been saying this whole show with PulseX and Pulse. This is a whole nother ball game, and so I believe they have admin keys. He can go in there and change.
Yeah, I don't personally understand the specifics of what they're able to upgrade and what they're not able to upgrade.
Yeah,
because I know like Uniswap V2 and Uniswap V3 are basically different projects. It wasn't an upgrade, and I don't know what the specifics are for PulseX that way, what they can change and what they can't change.
Yeah, I just wonder how drastic it's going to be. Like, I wonder if it's as simple as, oh no, you can just leave your tokens in the contract and we're just going to switch out and now you're earning fees. Like,
I don't know. That's a good question. Because it will take action.
Yeah, Sami's under the impression that you'd have to pull it out and undo and then restake back in the new contract.
That would make the most sense to me if I had to guess, but I don't want to pretend that I'm an expert in that area.
Yeah, me neither. I can barely run a validator. I have to have like hand holding step by step.
Yeah, well, good for you.
Yeah.
And I like Randy's doing what I'm doing in the farm. So I like my farming positions. It allows me to be able to essentially DCA into other things that I like without bringing new money into the ecosystem. And so I'm using my ink token, and I've been selling it off for other positions. I almost have the position that I want in fiat, which is cool. And I've been able to get that primarily from farming. So that's how I'm treating it, and I'm cool letting mine ride. The pool that I got into, I played it almost perfectly, in my opinion, where I got into the wrap Bitcoin and Pulse pool. I don't care to own Bitcoin; it doesn't interest me, but I'm very interested in those APRs. And I thought that if I put it in when I did, I thought there was a good chance we had more downside on Pulse. But sure enough, we did. So my impermanent loss is fairly strong in that respect. And it's good because it gives me an option where I could pull out, and the impermanent loss could be a good thing because now I hold more Pulse, and I've acquired more Pulse while I was earning ink the whole time. Or I could let it ride, and since it's dipped, I feel very confident that Pulse will become more valuable than Bitcoin over the next, who knows how long that it'll take, but I feel like it won't be that long. And I can hold and earn the whole time. So
I call that impermanent gains. Impermanent gains, not a permanent loss.
Right. So I'm cool with it. My positions are working good. I pulled out of my some of the other farms. I only have that one going right now, and it's good. I'll make enough money while I'm here in Puerto Rico to pay for this trip if I wanted to exit that ink. So not a bad play there either. Not bad. Yeah. So what are so Maxim, talk about some of the things that you would, now of course you're not Richard Hart, but if you were, or you were more intimately involved, what are some of the things that you would like to see in Pulse and Pulse X in order to see some of the growth that we all hope to experience there over the next
what
few
would
years?
make you feel warm and fuzzy, like you'd feel bullish? You're like, oh, this
that's a good question. I'm looking forward to, I think, like many other people, the single-sided staking.
Mm-hmm.
I think that has the potential to encourage people to lock up their tokens a little bit. Like you can unstake, but I think it'll give some people some confidence that way. I think that could also, since there's more liquidity, protect the price a little bit. And I think if people can see some kind of return without impermanent loss, it could be an incentive to buy as well. I'm hearing an echo from somebody, by the way. I don't know if anyone else is.
I'm hearing it too. Corey and I will mute ourselves. Let's see if that fixes it.
And I don't know. Like, I'm looking forward to liquid loans for similar reasons. And some other projects that are coming out in a little while. They're not coming out next week. So I think there's some slightly longer term dynamics that are not in play yet that could be good. And I don't know, Richard Hart has shown himself able to understand price dynamics, and he has a lot of power. I think that's one of the, I think there's downsides to him having so many projects, and there's upsides. Upsides are, he has the layer one, the decentralized exchange, and the store of value token, and he has the potential, if he does understand price dynamics, to really help the system as a whole by incentivizing certain actions, if he understands which actions to incentivize. And with this literal ink token, the incentive token, he could encourage some good price dynamics. The downside, for what it's worth, is that his focus is split unusually broad. Like like, you know, for a while, he was just focused on his store of value token. Now he's got a layer 1, he's got a decentralized exchange, he's got the bridge and the store of value token. And in our competition is made up of people that are only focused on maybe Bitcoin, the store of value. All they do is focus on Bitcoin. What's the best narrative? What's the best future for this token? We have, you know, Vitalik and many other layer 1s where the founders are only focused on layer 1. What's the best thing that we can do to this layer 1? Decentralized exchanges are the same way, where we have one person focusing on the decentralized exchange, where Richard is the downside is that he has to focus on the layer 1, and every single one of his tokens now is going to take some focus. And I think that's a real challenge. I think Richard also, in my opinion, has shown himself very wise. He doesn't reinvent the wheel very often. He uses what works well. I've just seen this so many times with him. For example, the Hex adoption amplifier was a modified version of the EOS ICO. And basically what I think Richard Hart did is he's like, well, I want to have an ICO. What's the best ICO that's ever existed? And let's look to that to decide how I want to do mine. And at the time, I think it still is, EOS was the biggest ICO. I think it had something like $6 billion in its ICO. And then I think he's doing the same thing. Well, what in his opinion is the best layer 1? Let's not create something from scratch. Let's use the most tested, secure thing that matches my values the closest. And so with his focus, I feel like he's very efficient. But I still think it's a real challenge. And another thought on that is if you are copying what is out there, you're always a copy. And one of there's more than two, but there's two things that I've noticed over time that tends to lead to good price dynamics in crypto. One is a strong community, extremely important, and another one is originality. The direct copies of something tend to not do as well. Like you can just look at Bitcoin, all the modified versions of Bitcoin over time that have happened, and the lack of value they have versus Bitcoin. Even all of these, some of them very, very different takes on layer 1s over time relative to Ethereum, which was the first mover. Ethereum has held its value very well. And so when I look at, for what it's worth, when I look at PulseX, I'm asking myself, okay, do we have a good community? I think we have a very strong community, basically from Hex. It's the Hexagon community. And I think Hex, for what it's worth, has a strong community. It's always incentives. Incentives are what makes the community. And Hex, one of the incentives built into Hex is those really long stakes. If people have their value locked up for 15 years, it really incentivizes them to care for long periods of time relative to other tokens. And I think it's encouraged a good, strong community. And now the guy behind their Hex token is now creating other projects that are incentivized to care about Pulse and Pulsechain as well. Yeah, so that's good. But the originality, when I look at Pulse and PulseX, I think one of the more original things about Pulse and PulseX is the bridge. There are many other layer 1s that have bridges. Not many of them allow you to bridge in basically any ERC20 token. And I think we'll see over time how much that is used. But I think it's potential, and I don't hear a lot of people talk about that. And to me, it's one of the attributes that I think is really valuable. There's a lot of potential if we can like I said, welcome people in. And if people, once they put in those MetaMask settings for Pulsechain, swapping between chains is pretty easy. And I think there's potential value. Right now, Pulsechain is significantly less expensive than Ethereum. And if people want to wrap their tokens and bring them over, they can save money. They can provide liquidity. They can do a bunch of stuff over on Pulsechain. And we have that potential with the bridge. And I'm curious over time how that plays out. But that's one of the relatively original attributes of Pulsechain that I think people are so focused on Pulse and PulseX because that's what they're invested in. But this side thing, the bridge, is actually pretty great, I think.
Is there a bridge token we can buy?
I know.
That's what we need next, right?
Yeah, I think there's 9 validators, and I'd be curious to know how much money they're making.
They got to be killing it. They got to be.
Yeah, I like this comment. More than incentive, we're gaining the understanding of value between great people and great projects working together. As a whole, we are great and doing great things. Actions are speaking loudly. I'd agree with this, and I think that a lot of people anticipate that showing up in the price chart really early on. A lot of the time, things like this, it takes time to build, right? It takes time for momentum to build. It takes time to week out or shake out weak hands. There's a lot of things that have to occur oftentimes before you really see it strong in the price chart. And I'm excited about that. I've done a lot of reflecting over the last little bit. And the thing that I keep coming back to, and if any of you guys have insights on this, if you're in the comments or watching the show, send me a DM or put it in the comments. I can't find other people that I feel more confident in than Richard. Now, I don't think that Richard is a god. Everybody is saying that all of his moves are calculated and that every single thing that's happened was on purpose. I just don't think that's the case. I don't believe in that. I don't think that Richard is perfect, and I don't think that he needs to be. With that being said, I'm having a hard time finding people that I feel more confident in their protocols to bet on. And so with that being said, I feel incredibly confident that I'm in the right place. I feel really good about my holdings. I'm continuing to buy, and I'm excited. I couldn't be more bullish for the next couple of years. This is a long-term play. And if you're not viewing it that way, I think that it's easy to FUD yourself out. We're seeing we can sell now.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about that all the time, even when we invest in real estate projects or other, especially if we're investing in other people's, like, what do you call it? Not trust, but when you invest with a developer and they're building up, like I got a project out in Atlanta, Georgia that I'm doing, and I vetted the developer pre-hand and made sure that he was legitimate and that he did good work. It's the same with Richard, right? We're investing in the person, not in so much the projects. You invest in the projects, but you're more investing in the person than anything else. And so that's what it is with Richard for me. Syndications. When I'm investing in syndications in real estate. So it's more about the person rather than the actual syndication.
Maxim, if you're willing, I think we'd love to know if there's any other protocols that are being built on Pulsechain that you did feel comfortable mentioning. We'd love to chat about those a little bit. If not, feel free to say no. That's fine as well.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's I don't know. There's hints by Alex, the guy behind Hedron and Icosa, that he's working on some things. Not a lot of specifics, so I'm curious to see what they are. And I think the other tokens are relatively known by everybody, and I'm excited to just see what these things are and the impact that they have. And I'm excited that there are people excited to build, not to just sit back and let everyone else do everything, but actually to take action and try to create value. And I think the more people we have that are intelligent, hardworking people trying to create value, the more value we will probably have, the more diverse reasons that people will have to remain and play in our ecosystem. And yeah, there's a good handful of relatively intelligent, hardworking people that are not flooded out right now, that are building and looking forward to creating value. And I think that it just relates back to the community and why the community is valuable. It's people like you guys creating these channels that are getting the word out that is needed. If no one knows about the value, then they can't act on it. And there's our community in so many different ways are, even through this time, which I think a lot of people feel is difficult, are still creating, are still focusing. And I'm watching basically. And like I said, like I'm trying to put myself in a position to be able to act as I know more over time. But yeah, I don't think I have one specific thing that I'm like, no one knows about this and this is going to be really great. I'm just trying to sit back and watch, and as I know more information, try to make the best simple decisions that I can.
I mean, I'll tell you some of my favorite is obviously the Buck Fiat's protocols. I love what he's doing with Fiat, Famous, the Fox token, and which is going to be given to everybody who was, I guess, it's an airdrop for if you were a good actor in his protocols. And obviously Alex, like you had said earlier, those are my two favorite builders. I like Power City too. I like Power City. I like what they're doing. I didn't used to believe in Power City because I thought they were taking on too much in the very beginning. But now with the team that they've created and the amount of work I've seen them put into our ecosystem, I'm really bullish on them now. And so Power City, I think is going to do really well. I mean, not financial advice or anything. And then, like I said, Alex is my second favorite guy. Then it's Buck Fiat. And then it's probably Power City. And that's probably the pecking order for me in the ecosystem. Then there's like, like you had said earlier, some of the, if you want to play some Maximus tokens, they're good. And that's about it, man. I'm not doing a whole lot of degenning, I guess, if you will, in Pulsechain. I don't plan on to anymore. I feel like I kind of degened out a little bit on the Ethereum side. There was a particular protocol that was being built. It was forked over from our community, and it's not the Forever Down token. It was the other one, and they ended up being very bad actors, very bad whales in that ecosystem. They acted very against the community, and they really harmed everybody. And so I'm exiting out of that community, and I learned my lesson. It was a lesson learned. I was like, okay, I see now. I saw where I made my mistakes. I'm learning from them, and I'm not going to repeat them. And on this, on the Pulsechain side, so it's that
like that's what you're saying is something that I think is a value that I'm trying to implement, and I want to be watching and learning and paying attention. If things don't go well for me, ask myself why, and that and a lot of that comes down to it is very fault. Easy. Yeah, it's my fault. Yeah, I made that decision, and that's one of the things that I actually really like about playing crypto is it's very hard for me to blame anyone else.
But everyone does.
Myself.
Look on Twitter.
I clicked.
Everyone on Twitter's doing this.
I clicked sell. I went for that project,
and you clicked
and
buy.
Sure, I can blame the market. I can blame the many individuals playing the game. They sold, but who like those are individuals. I know. I don't know what individuals are going to do. That's something I'm learning is not to, I guess, to be very, very careful playing a game in a way that I rely on things I do not control to work out. And and that just comes back to me being careful with the funds that I have, deploying too much at one time, especially in a bear. Especially in a bear market. Oh, yeah. I mean,
gosh.
I really
the opposite is true. Like instead of being slow to deploy,
you have to be fast.
You can get out too fast too. You can, or you could get, you know, there's lots of ways to do it wrong, but yeah, I do think in bull runs people tend to sell too slow. The tendency is that they're selling, they get stuck in a catch-22. They watch it drop and they're looking at how high the high was, and they feel like if they're selling now they're losing so much value, and then they end up feeling like they're going to have to hold through another 4 years, and that's painful too.
That's the most painful.
Did you guys see the I'm trying to find the account on Twitter. It breaks my heart. There was a and yeah, and can you guys hear an echo as well?
I don't, but let me mute.
Yeah, just mute while we'll take turns. But there's a dude on Twitter that has provided a lot of TA stuff that I followed. I think he's Silver or something or other, and the guy is posting. Yeah, and he's posting on Twitter how he's pretty much going to be out of crypto. He's exiting his positions, and he's showing pictures of this trailer that's beat up that he hasn't been able to fix up, and some different things that have been difficult to deal with. And it breaks my heart because he's capitulating, and he's losing hope and losing faith in some of these things that I personally feel like, and I could be wrong, but I think have enormous upside and potential. And like Corey said, I think it's really healthy to be able to sit back and reevaluate and say, where have I won? Where have I lost? And why have those things occurred? And then learn from those experiences. And I know that Silver has talked about trading a fair amount in his content, and that could be a large part of the problem. But I just wanted to echo what Corey said. I feel really good about where I'm at, and I really like the bag that I'm building. I, once again, couldn't be more excited for the next few years. So those of you that are tuning in today, if you're going to ride with us, once again, I think you're in the right place. I think your timing is excellent. Like Randy says, we probably have about 10 to 12 more months of excellent DCA buy opportunities. And you get to decide how you build your bag, what the things that you want to bet on, the founders you want to roll with. And so it's going to be wild.
Or it could all go to zero tomorrow, and you have to be okay with that.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I those stories like Silver's are sad. I feel bad for Silver himself. I feel like he was following the common narratives at the time. Stake your hex for long periods of time. Pulsechain's going to come out. It's going to be insane right off the bat. And it stinks, like it's a bummer that he was hurt. And he was, in a sense, being a good hexagon and doing what people were saying. And this is the position that he's currently in. On the other side, capitulation is associated with the bottom. Like after we've reached such a negative position that the people that can't handle it get out. Once everyone that wants to sell is sold, that's the bottom. And if I think there is a future, if I think the community is still there, it's going to come back, people are paying attention, that's when I feel the most confident buying. And the more depression I see, ironically, I think the less downside there is for buying at those times. It's when everyone this is going to go great, that is so commonly associated with the time to be selling rather than buying.
Buy when they're fearful, sell when they're greedy.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. One of the greatest words ever spoken by Warren Buffett.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Cool. We've been going a little bit over an hour. If there's any last parting words, it's probably a good place to wrap things up. If that's cool with you guys, Ben, why don't you go ahead and round us out? Last parting words. Shill your stuff. Where can people find you? The people want to know.
Yeah, won't settle media is my Twitter handle, and my YouTube is Maxim Broadcast. Yeah, I don't know what closing words I would have. I would say that yeah, we're in a defining time of sorts where because of our founder, one way I look at it is because of our founder creating new tokens, and these tokens actually being here now. And not only new tokens, but forking his old token, there is this is a difference. People are going to have to make decisions that are a little bit difficult, and it's not obvious, like, to me, where the opportunity is between these tokens. And I'm really curious to see how these narratives develop over time, what the narrative is for eHex versus pHex, PulseX, and at the same time, I see value in this system. Like I said, a lot of it is, if nothing else, the community is still here. We're still building things, and I'm so glad to be a part of it. And I'm hoping to continue to learn over time, and I'm curious to see where we're at in a couple of years.
Well, man, we also appreciate you and the fact that you're in this community. You know, I always tell everybody I always want to be like the dumbest person in the room anytime I'm learning anything new. And I feel like, you know, you're one of the smarter guys in this community who have a very level head. Like, you understand what it takes to be successful in this space. It might be maybe not even in this space, but probably in life in general, right? As being an entrepreneur, you have that spirit and mindset, which is what I love about you. So we really appreciate you, all the content you make, and you being here in the community, because it's people like you who give me hope in knowing that we have a future going forward, and makes me feel bullish that people like you are in this community. So we thank you too, man. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks.
So, you're muted, Dane. Dane.
Yeah, and just to add to that, once again, you guys, we're like 10 months away from the next Bitcoin halving, which historically has been the marker for the entire crypto market to go berserk, as long as you're in decent things with product market fit, all that type of stuff. So I would say, and once again, we don't give any financial advice, but for me, I'm walking away from Twitter. If it ever makes me feel too negative, I turn that off. I know who I believe in. I dollar cost average into those positions. I'm not tied too heavily to their price right now because I'm holding for 2 years. I'm not trading. I'm not being a degen, and I'm trying to be as wise as possible.
And you can still feed your family, right?
And I can still feed my family. Those attributes, time and time and time again, have led me to a lot of success in other industries. I don't see any reason that they wouldn't lead me to success here. And if they don't, I'll learn from those experiences, and we'll move on, and I'll move forward from there. But I feel very confident where I'm at, and you've got to come to that same confidence level with your own portfolio. You should be able to verbalize why you're buying things that you're buying, and be able to explain those clearly to a third party. If you can't do that, and it's, hey, Maxim or Dane or Corey or Buck or Richard or Alex or Randy or anybody else is buying them or said they were good, well, it's probably not a good reason to be buying a token. You need to figure that out for yourself. And so there's a few parting words and hopefully some wisdom to help everybody calm down and make good decisions for yourself.
Well said, brother.
Well, guys, awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming on, Maxim. We appreciate everybody in the show. It's been a lot of fun today. We are in Puerto Rico, so we'll be streaming the rest of this week. Feel free to tune in. We're keeping our same time. And so catch us tomorrow, which will be a lot of fun. Is tomorrow, Corey, do we have anybody on tomorrow? Is that Dixon?
I'm trying, but he's traveling off the island, so we might not catch him until he gets back.
Okay, cool. But we'll be back here the rest of the week, and so we'll catch you guys later.
See you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.